Hi, and welcome back to the Azure Database for MySQL monthly webinar. I'm Shreya Raital, and hosting the series with me is Avnish Rastogi.
Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar.
This is our eighth episode in the series that we kicked off in December last year as a platform for open interaction with all of you to bring you the latest updates, announcements, along with our feature upcoming roadmap and for technical deep dives. In case any of you missed any of our previous episodes where we've covered a wide range of topics as well as demos, you can check out the recordings on our YouTube channel. Our handle on YouTube is at AzureDB MySQL. Today, as always, we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Twitch. And we have a packed agenda. We've got four guest speakers coming in to present on four technical deep dives on four topics. So, Avnish, do you want to cover an overview of the topics we'll be covering today?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you're right. We have a packed agenda. First item we're going to cover is the MySQL 5.7 support in Azure Database for MySQL. And as Oracle announced MySQL 5.7 retirement by October 31st this year. So we're going to talk about our plans to support MySQL 5.7 in both single server as well as flexible server. The second item we plan to cover is how you can use Vercel to build cloud native application and how does it integrate with Azure Database for MySQL. Third item we are planning to cover MySQL extension for Azure Data Studio. This is something we covered in our previous webinars as well. Today focus would be on MySQL, but you can use Azure Data Studio to not only manage MySQL instances, but also other databases like SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, and so forth. And fourth item we're going to cover is auto migration for Azure Database MySQL Single Server to Flexible Server. So as you may recall from the previous webinars, we announced single server retirement, and we plan to sunset single server by September 2024. So today we will cover a couple of the new tools we are introducing on how you can use to migrate single server to flexible server. And finally, we're going to cover the upcoming features and the roadmap and any Q&A. Back to you, Shreya.
Thanks so much, Avnish. But before we get started, I do want to make sure that we keep this session as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions or feedback at any point during the session, please drop it in the live chat window and we'll address them as we go through the session. We also have, as always, our product expert and Sudesh Narayan Swami on the chat window to help address your queries. So now let's get started with the first section. As Avnish said, Oracle has announced end of life for MySQL Community version 5.7, which is on October 2023. So we'd like to invite Elendil Zeng from our product group to talk about the extended support options for Azure Database for MySQL Single Server as well as Flexible Server. Hi, Elendil. Welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Shira. Thank you for inviting me to join today's webinar. Yeah, it's a very glad opportunity to meet all our Azure MySQL customers. Yeah, and introducing our MySQL 5.7 end of life extended support after Oracle announced that end of life after October 2023.
Yeah, but before we get started, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself, Elendil?
Okay, sure. Yeah, my name is Elendo, and I'm the program manager for Azure MySQL, and my main focus is on the Azure MySQL maintenance and our major version upgrade, and the entire 5.7 major version 5.7 version deprecation.
Perfect. Thank you, Elendil. Over to you to walk us through what the extended support looks like and what are the timelines.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so as we all know that Oracle announced the end of life support at October 2023. So Azure, we will provide an extended support. And what does the extended support look like? So we will still provide a monthly updates and fix issues to address the underlying infrastructure, OS, and service level issues for version 5.7. And we will still provide critical fixes for our MySQL engine or service required to maintain the availability, reliability, and the security of the service. But during the extended support, Azure MySQL, Azure Database for MySQL will not release any new minor versions for 5.7. And we'll new engine features or fixes which are not contributing to the server availabilities or security. We're also not providing any feedback features or fixes. And the support team will continue to engage as is, but may be able to provide a limited support if the issue is discovered to be related to MySQL engine limitation and not impacting reliability, availability, or security of the service. Next slide, please. Okay, so many of you are very, focusing on the extended support timeline. So we have two different timelines for flexible server and the single server. So of course, all the extended support start at October 2023. So flexible server starting from January 2024, we will stop the new creation of new servers using Azure Portal for Azure MySQL 5.7. And we will stop creation of new servers using the CLIs in 2024 April. And we will stop all the creations of flexible server 5.7 in September 2025. So for single server, it's a little bit different. Of course, it still starts on the October 2023, and we will stop the creation of all the 5.7 single servers at September 2024. It will go along with the deprecation of the entire single server support time. Okay, next slide. Okay, so many of you may curious about that how to perform a major version upgrade, and to watch some FAQs or the detailed support policies of our extended support. So here is two links you can visit. That the first is how you can perform a major version upgrade. We have listed the detailed steps of how you can clicking the buttons on our Azure MySQL overview page and upgrade to the latest 8 versions. And in Azure MySQL version support policies, you will see the timeline information there. And we also provided a lot of the detailed FAQ lists that will help you to address your concerns about our extended support. Okay, so that's all for the Azure extended support for MySQL 5.7.
Thanks so much,
Thank you very
Alvin.
much, Alendal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So folks, do take a look at this link and reach out to us if you have any questions. But thanks for coming on to our show, and they'll see you. I think yeah, that's about it. So we'll move on to the next section, which is Vercel. So if you are an app developer or if you're working in the app dev space, you must have heard of Vercel. It is a new platform which is growing in popularity, allowing you to quickly develop applications in your favorite front-end frameworks, to scale application, to optimize for performance, easily collaborate with others, and also gives you a lot of source control options as well. So we'd like to invite Nitish Sharma from the MySQL engineering team to walk us through a demo of building an app on Vercel and integrating it with Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. Welcome, Nitish. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Shreya, and thank you, Avnish, for the introductions. That really helped. And hi, everyone. So my name is Nitish, and I've been a part of MySQL engineering team for the past 1 year. I've been mostly working on building the MySQL extension on Azure Data Studio. And in my free time, I generally love exploring new technologies or new tools which are out there and building small personal projects on them. And during this demo, I got to learn a little about Vercel, and I'm excited to share that with you all today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nitish. Over to you. Looking forward to the demo.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, let me give you a brief outline about the demo. We'll be building a small app and deploy that application on Vercel, and we'll be using Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server as the backend. So there are 4 important tools which we'll be using. First is, of course, the Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Servers. So if your application needs a relational database which features like high availability, scalability, read replication role, etc., and different features which we keep talking about in the channel, you can choose Azure MySQL as your database. Second is, of course, Vercel. So Shreya gave a good introduction about Vercel, so I will be moving forward. Next is actually Next.js framework. It's actually a very popular front-end framework built on top of React. It's very popular these days. And the fourth is the Prisma client. So Prisma client is a Node.js and TypeScript ORM, object relational mapping tool, which we'll use to talk to our database. Okay. So let's first of all, let's see the diagram. Avnish, can we go back slide? Yeah. So let's see the flow diagram first. So to try out this demo, you actually need an existing database with some dummy data, which our application will use. And then we will go to the Vercel dashboard, where will we use our template. We have a ready-made template for you, which you can use, and then we'll create our project. After we deploy our project, we'll get a domain which we give, and using this domain, we can see our website. Yes, yes, Avnish. Can we move to next slide? Yeah. So this is how the template looks like, and we can move to the demo. So yeah, you can see that first we'll need to have an existing database. So I already have an existing database created, but if you want a new database, you can create one. So while creating the database, just make sure you have all the IP address enabled, because Vercel will need to access this database to fetch data. Next I will be populating some data into this database. I'm using Azure Database, Azure Data Studio MySQL extension. So you can see I've already made a connection there. I'm creating a new database for this demo. Let's name it products. And we'll create some tables and we'll populate some dummy data into this. You can see the products database has been created. So I have a ready-made SQL query, SQL script. All this SQL script does is it has SQL commands to create two tables, product and category, and I'm just populating a few dummy data into it. So you can see our commands have executed successfully. We will check whether the data got populated or not using the select queries. As you can see, the data got populated correctly. So after this, next we will move to the Vercel side. First, we will go to the Vercel dashboard. So this is how the Vercel dashboard will look like. You can see I've logged in with my GitHub account. This is a free account. You don't need a paid account to try out this demo. And in the overview tab, you can see all the projects which you have created. I have one demo project, but let's create a new one. Go to the add new, we'll click on project. Under the clone templates, we'll go to browse all templates. And we'll just search for our template, Azure MySQL. And you can see our template visible here. We'll just click on it. So you can see this is how the website will look like at the end. Let's check out the GitHub repo for this. So this is a repo. So the directory structure is just like any Next.js application. So anyone familiar with that is basically the same. So you can see on the pages tab index.js. So this is the page which is currently which you saw earlier. This will display all the data. And you can see also the Prisma directory. Schema.prisma file actually contains, we have defined some models here for the two tables which we have created. This database URL environment which will contain the connection string for our database. So for our, we need to connect to the Azure database. So which will pass that there. So I'm trying this on Vercel, but you can also do this locally by just cloning the repo and following the steps mentioned in the README. You just run these steps and you can try out this demo in locally too. But we will be trying out this in Vercel. So we'll just click on deploy. So when we click on deploy, it will ask us to create a new repo. It will just clone the template and create a new GitHub repo in your GitHub account. So you can see I've created given a name and created it. So you can, if you check your GitHub account, this is my GitHub account, you can see that a new repo has been created. So we'll go to the repo and you can see that there is just one commit. It's just a clone of the repo, initial commit. And is everything the same? So I will be starting a code spaces here because I want to make some changes later, but we'll come back to that afterwards. Let's move on to our Vercel dashboard. So next we will need to pass that database URL. So the format of that database URL is actually in the README file. You can just copy paste that and fill in the details of your database. So I have that ready, and then I will just click on deploy. So after we click on deploy, we'll start the building phase. So what happens is that depending on what front-end framework you're using, Vercel automatically configures a build step. So for example, we are using Next.js, and for Next.js, the default build command is next build. And you can actually configure this command or change your command using the settings tab by going into the settings tab. So you can see it's just deploying the build has been started and generating all the static elements, and our and our application is ready. We have deployed our application successfully. So you just go back to the dashboard, just to refresh it, and you can see your project there. And you can see just now, uh, and you can just click on that. Under the deployments tab, you will see all the deployments which have been triggered. So we currently have only one deployment, and you can see it's created just a minute ago. So after the build, at the end, the Vercel actually assigns some demo, and we have a custom domain too. So you can just go to the custom domain and you can give it any name you want, like any custom name. So I've tried a random name here just to try out this feature. I'll just save it and we'll use the link to visit our website. So this is how the website looks like. We can also try to open this website using other links. So I will try to visit this website using the visit button there, and you can see it's exactly the same. So the next few features which I want to talk about is instant rollback. So, so now we'll use our code spaces for that. So what happens is that whenever we create a new project from Vercel, it actually uses the main branch or the master branch as the production branch. And whenever there is a new commit to the production branch, Vercel will trigger a new production deployment. So we'll try that out here. So I've just made a small change, and I'm just adding this to the main repo, main branch. I'm just committing my change to the main branch. So as soon as I commit that change to the main branch, Vercel will trigger a production deployment because we are in the production branch, and there is only one production branch, and you can configure that using the settings tab. So I'll go to the deployments, and you can see a new deployment has been triggered, and it's currently building. And the environment is production. You can see my commit there, which triggered this deployment. So you can see the build steps are again the same. Just build all the static files and just deploy it. And again, we have 3 domains to visit that. Let's check whether our change got deployed or not. And you can see the next feature deployment, the text is there, which I added. So now if you go back to the deployments page, we have 2 deployments, right? And let's say the current deployment is faulty or it is showing some errors, and we want to go back to the last stable deployment. So that is what the instant rollback feature is. So I just need to go to the deployment, click there, and do an instant rollback. It just asks me for a few confirmations, and we'll do an instant rollback. So now our current deployment is this deployment, and you can see the current mentioned next to the production. And we can use, and this is the instant rollback feature. Next thing which I want to talk about is the active branches or the or the preview deployments. So as I told, like there is only one production branch, which is the main branch. So what happened if you're working on a team, and if you have a preview feature and you want your teammates to review them or to check them out. So here I will just create a new branch, a preview branch, and I will add again a new text change like next preview feature deployment. I will add this change to my preview branch. I will commit it, and I will just push this branch. As soon as I push this branch, Vercel will trigger a new deployment. You can see my pushes there. Let's check out the deployments tab. As you can see, and if you see, the environment is preview. So there is only one production branch, but there can be many preview branches. And if you want your team to check out your changes and also see visually how it looks on the website, we can use this feature. And the build steps are exactly the same. There's no change there. And let's check whether the change that we did is showing or not. And you can see the changes there. So this is active branches, and there can be many active branches, and there can be many active deployments, but there is only one production deployment. And if you want to try other features, there are logs, functions, open graph, source. These are a little advanced, so depending on your applications and your needs, you can try them out. And if you go to the our project tab, and you can see and you can also enable analytics, speed insights. You can see the different tabs out there, and you can try them out. And something advanced if you want to try out is webhooks. Webhooks is something advanced. You can read more about that. And there is also a blog published on how to try this out, so you can check that out. Yes. So that's it for me today. Back to you, Avnish and Shreya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nitish, for the detailed demo walkthrough. Love how simplified the entire experience is on Vercel, as well as how to integrate with Azure Database for MySQL. Love the quick start, so I'm definitely going to try that out. And there were a couple of questions on the chat window. I think, Geeta, if you want to try out this, you can check out the blog that we have published on the same, which is at aka.ms MySQL Vercel. But I don't think there were any other questions on the chat for you, Nitish. So thank you again for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. Thank you, Avnish. And thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
Perfect. Moving on to the third section. How many of you are aware of or used our open source database management tool, which is Azure Data Studio? If you have used Azure Data Studio, go ahead and drop a note on the chat window. But if you have not, Azure Data Studio is a cross platform tool which will allow you to connect to and query and work with any databases. Just like Avnish said, it could be any database, SQL, Postgres, Cosmos, and so on. And these can be hosted anywhere, right? You could have it on your local machines, on on-premises servers, on Azure, or any other clouds for that matter. And we recently GA'd a MySQL extension for Azure Data Studio, which will allow you to work with your MySQL databases alongside your other databases. So no more need to download another client tool just to work with MySQL databases. You don't have to struggle anymore with CLI-based tools if you prefer UI over CLI. So we'd really like to invite Rishabh Kumar from the MySQL engineering team to walk us through all the exciting features of this extension and of Azure Data Studio with a demo. Welcome, Rishabh. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon Avnish, for inviting me. Yeah, so hi, I am Rishabh. I work with MySQL engineering team. So I have recently moved into databases engineering a couple of years back, and I was primarily working with the MySQL integrations. So I'm kind of loving the database domain right now.
Thanks so much, Rishabh. Over to you for looking forward to the detailed walkthrough of the extension.
Sure. So Azure Data Studio it is a single tool with which you can work with multiple databases across data platforms and across deployment models. Also, with MySQL extension installed in Azure Data Studio, you can connect to any MySQL anywhere, whether it can be on a VM or on Azure or anywhere. So, MySQL extension with ADS provides a lot of modern experience and capabilities. So most of them are listed here. I want to highlight a couple of them. So one is Azure Add Authentication, IntelliSense, Code Snippets, source control, customizable dashboards, Azure Resource Explorer, Jupyter Notebooks, terminals, GitHub Copilot, and more. So I will be demoing all this feature in the upcoming slides. So yeah, you can start.
Manish, can you move to the previous slide and click on start video? Yeah, this is the slide.
Cool, thanks. So let's see how we can download and install the Azure Data Studio first. So ADS is a cross-platform tool. So based on the operating system, we can select a binary and we can install the Azure Data Studio. So this guide on Microsoft documentation provides all these details. So once we have the Azure Data Studio installed, we can go to the extension tabs. We can search for MySQL, and we can install the MySQL extension. So on the welcome page of extension, all the features of the extensions are provided with a quick start for the user to try it. Let's make a connection to MySQL databases. So for making the connection, we have to go to the connection tab, then select new connection. Connection type should be MySQL. I have some pre-filled details. So user has to provide the server name. Authentication type, they can select a password or Azure Active Directory. Then credentials and username. There are some advanced options also. User has to provide the server. User can provide the server, client, and SSL options. Let's connect. So on the left side, you can see that we have a customizable. On the right side, you can see we have a customizable dashboard, and on the left side, we have the Object Explorer. So Object Explorer shows all the details of the MySQL server, and this is the customizable dashboard. You can add the insights to it and other things. So let's do a query. So this is the modern editor that ADS provides, and MySQL extension uses this. So let's make a query. So this is the intelligence support that we have in the MySQL extension. As I go through, I'll show all these features with this. So let's run it. On the left side, you can see the data, and on the right side, we have the options to export the data in multiple formats. We can export it in CSV, Excel. We can plot the charts out of this data, and the insights that I've showed on dashboard, we can create it from here. So there are other features, like we can pick the definition of any MySQL table, or there are features for doing the scripting. We can do scripts that create added data. Also, we have provided with the code snippets so that user don't have to write the recursive things again and again. So with this, I think we can move on the which I feel the most interesting part to me, which is the integrations. So MySQL extension has integrations with Azure ecosystem. So user can uh, log in with their Azure account. They can see all the subscriptions here and all their resources. So they can see the Azure database for MySQL, and with one click connect, user can get all the details of their server. They don't have to enter it. They just have to enter the credentials. So let's say you have a Azure database for MySQL flexible server and you missed to add the firewall rules. We have it covered. So your IP will be auto-populated and you don't have to worry about it, and you can directly make a connection. Next integration we have is with the GitHub. So this is the source control. So if you are working with scripts and you want to uh, commit it on the GitHub, we have it covered. You can just enter the script, just write a script and save it. And let me commit this, entering a commit message. Here you go. So the script is committed. And the next in this integrations also, there is my favorite integration is the GitHub Copilot integration. So for that, we first have to install the GitHub Copilot extension. Once this is installed, so let me show you how it works. Let's make a new query. Let's write some text. First, select the database and let's write some text. So let's say get the number of rows in person people table and press enter. So we have the code generated from the text. This is MySQL and GitHub Copilot integration. Also, let me show one more thing. So let me write some queries. Select star from people space So this is the auto completion feature that GitHub Copilot provides in the MySQL extension. So if you are working on MySQL extension, this is very useful. Next is the notebooks. So we have integration with Jupyter notebooks. These are the entry points. So I have a notebook that already exists. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is the Jupyter notebook. We can select the connection, code. There are code tabs, block, and we can create the charts. We can share these notebooks also with the IDS section. So yeah, thank you. That's all I have for today. Back to you, Avnish and Shreya.
Thank you. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Rishabh. Folks, you can check out the detailed quick start and all the resources that you will need at aka.ms MySQL ADS. But thanks so much, Rishabh, for the walkthrough. And go ahead and try this out today, folks. Go ahead and download the extension, test with your applications and your databases, and let us know your feedback. We don't have any questions for you on the chat right now, Rishabh. So thank you again for coming on the webinar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. So on to our last topic. As many of you know, and we have shared a couple of times in this webinar as well, is Azure Database for MySQL Single Server is on the road for deprecation by September 2024. We'd like to invite Aditi Gupta from the product group to walk us through an all-new in-place auto migration capability that will help you move from single server to flexible server with almost very little efforts from your end. Welcome, Aditi. Can you give us a brief introduction before we get started?
Thanks Shreya and Avnish for having me over. Hi everyone, my name is Aditi Gupta and I'm a product manager with the Azure Database for MySQL team. And as part of my job at Azure, I live and breathe MySQL migrations. And I'm excited to talk about a couple of new interesting additions to our migration toolkit for MySQL today.
Over to you, Aditi. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the most anticipated, most asked feature to support Azure Database from MySQL Single Server to Flexible Server migrations. And I'm excited to launch the in-place auto migration, which is a service-initiated in-place auto migration that is scheduled to execute within a service plan maintenance window. The eligibility of the single server workloads for in-place auto migration is based on the following three conditions, where if your single server database workload has a basic or a GP skew, the second condition is where your data storage is less than 10 gigabytes, and there are no complex features like CMK, AD, or read replicas enabled for your database workload. Again, the eligibility is decided by the Microsoft service, and we sort of go ahead and schedule your single servers for these in-place auto migrations. The migration itself is quite resilient and self-healing. It's an offline migration experience where you would see less than 5 minutes of downtime. It leverages the backup and restore technology for faster migration time, and we do auto-provision the target flexible server as well, based on your single server's compute and storage size. A quick note here, the eligible servers for in-place migration is those single server workloads with basic or GP skew, data storage less than 10 gigabytes, and no complex features enabled. All other single server workloads are recommended to use the user-initiated migration tooling that we have on offer, that is the data migration service and MySQL import to migrate. Next, let's quickly take a quick peek at what are the key features for this in-place auto migration. First, we do auto-provision the target flexible server, and we initiate the migration at no additional cost. The migration copies server parameters, firewall rules, along with all the schema, data, users, and logins from your source single server to the target flexible server. We also perform the DNS switch and cutover within the plant maintenance window so that we are able to maintain the same connection string. Post-migration, this ensures business continuity and your clients and applications, they continue to connect to the target flexible server without any user-driven updates. And in the same manner, the username format and the connection string that is now supported on the target flexible server, it does support both the single server and flexible server formats so that there is no user end manual refactoring or source code changes needed to maintain business continuity. In-place auto migration also gives you the ability to reschedule the migration via a dedicated migration blade on the Azure portal. Now we allow you to defer the migration by a month at any given time. Supporting both connection strings and username formats, post-migration helps you minimize any source code refactoring. Additionally, there's minimal customer effort and inputs. Let's take a look at what does auto migration workflow and what are the various milestones and phases that you would go through. Once the service has identified your server as an eligible workload to be auto migrated, we'll be sending you out a 1-month advance notice for the scheduled migration. Now you could see alerts for auto migration by navigating to the service health on Azure portal. In addition to that, you'll see an in-place migration banner for your eligible server on the overview page itself. Next, you could either navigate to the dedicated migration blade. Again, the blade is only visible when you are scheduled for an auto migration, or you could leverage the Azure portal banner on the overview page to go ahead and review the auto migration details. You can accept or defer by a month. And again, the choice to reschedule migration is given to you until 7 days before the scheduled migration, post which we log the migration details so that we are able to plan better for scheduling your migrations within the plan maintenance windows. Next, within the plan maintenance window, we execute the migration. The target flexible server is deployed. It inherits all the feature set and properties from your source single server. Then the source single server is put to a read-only state, and the backup from the source server is copied over to the target flexible server. Next, we perform the DNS cutover, and we maintain the same connection string so that client applications can seamlessly connect to the target flexible server. Next, you are all set to manage your flexible server. The AM cache refresh rate is currently at 30 minutes, so it might take 30 minutes for you to be able to manage or log into your flexible server with CLI or Azure portal. But be rest assured, as soon as the migration is complete, the server is online, the clients and applications can immediately connect to it. Post-migration, the stop single server is deleted post the days set as backup retention period. And we are also working on setting this or deleting the servers post a static period of 7 days. Now, post-migration, there are two critical steps that we expect the customers to be doing. The first is to import all your monitor and diagnostic settings. The second one is to update any of your CLI or Terraform scripts that you use to manage your single server instance. You should be updating it with all the flexible server instances or references. Next, let's take a quick look at what the experience on the Azure portal is going to look like. When you're set up for an auto migration, you'll start seeing an Azure portal banner with your migration schedule details. You can click on review schedule migration or the migration blade to land onto the next screen. And that is reviewing or configuring the auto migration details. This is where you can reschedule your migration window or accept the migration window that we have set for your single server. You'll start seeing estimated costs for the target flexible server. And again, for most cases, the target flexible server is priced lower than your single server. And in case you have a GP SKU, you will have the additional option to enable high availability controls. Next, once you've made the decisions here, you can monitor the auto migration by moving on to the migration blade, where you can see the status. As you can see, the auto migration has been scheduled. Now this blade will be updated during the plan maintenance windows where your auto migration is in progress. And finally, you'll move on to a screen which says your migration has been successfully completed. And in the next screen, we'll see where you'll land at. Now, this is where you're all set. Your target flexible server is online, and your clients and applications have effortlessly onboarded to your target flexible server. Next, I am excited to talk about another interesting addition to MySQL migration toolkit, and that is Azure MySQL Import. We've just announced the public preview for this tooling. The key features for Azure MySQL Import is that it currently supports Azure Database for MySQL Single Server as the data source. It provisions the target flexible server and consequently triggers the import, where it first creates the MySQL import snapshot from the single server and then copies it to the target flexible server it had provisioned using multiple threads. It supports schema data, logins, and users import. It does provide for a fast data backup and restore to targets, so it's quite suitable for those bigger workloads. We've currently launched the CLI user experience, which sort of will enable you to perform migrations at scale and enables that programmatic support. Next, let's quickly take a look at what does this experience look like. So it's a single command to provision your flexible server as well as to migrate from single to flexible server. So you'll need to log into your Azure CLI, pick the subscription that your single server is in, and just run the simple flexible server import create statement. Now, there are a few arguments that are mandatory. The data source type, which for our case is the MySQL single server, the data source, so that's your single server name, the resource group in which the single server resides, the name is that of your target flexible server. Now, this should be a unique name with which we'll be provisioning your target flexible server for migration. The SKU name and the tier name. So we have published a detailed guide, and the link is on the screen, where we do provide recommendations on what should be the recommended and mapped SKU and tier when you're moving from a particular single server SKU to flexible server. The storage size should be greater than or equal to the one that you've set on single server. And the MySQL import CLI command, it's going to give you a running status, and once it's successfully completed, it will return a success statement. It will create your target flexible server in the same subscription group, in the same resource group, in the same region, and the same version as your single server. And with this, just a single command, and you'll be able to trigger fast migration for your single to flexible server. Thanks. That's all I had for today. Back to you, Shreya and Avnish.
Thanks so much, Aditi.
Yeah, go ahead, Shreya.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks so much, Aditi. The link for MySQL import is on the on the screen, and love how it's a single CLI command with which we can literally achieve fast migrations from single to flexible server. And for auto migrations, if anyone missed the link, folks, this is the link to the details on auto migration. Again, love how there's a simple tool to perform all of this, simple utility to perform all of this with no efforts from the customers whatsoever. So thanks for sharing this, Aditi. Avnish, you had something to say? Sorry.
No. I was just saying that these tools would be very, very helpful for the customers. We are offering both the options: auto migration, which is initiated by Microsoft, with very little intervention from the customer side. And second, for the large workload, customers can use the MySQL import command. With a single command, they can complete the migration from end to end. So very, very helpful.
Yep. Thanks so much, Avnish. Let's now move on to the last section, Avnish. Shall we go ahead with the feature announcements and upcoming roadmap?
Yeah, so there are multiple features we are planning to basically release this quarter. First is public private link. We talked about the private link private preview, and we are planning to do public preview sometime later next month. So in next month we plan to have the public preview. And as you may recall, private link has been available on single server for a long time, and we introduced private preview last month, and now we are planning to have the public preview soon. The next feature will be MySQL extension, which we briefly talk about this. It's already GA now, so you can use it freely. And the third feature is universal cross-region read replicas. The universal cross-region read replica is basically the read replica in the non-Azure paired regions. So we already have the paired regions read replica available. It has been in GA for a while now, and now we are planning to have the currently it's in private preview, and we plan to have the GA of the universal cross-region read replica sometime in Q3 this quarter. The user experience would be same, so there won't be any change in the user experience. The way you provision read replica in the paired region, it will be the same experience for the non-paired region. And finally, we have auto-scale IOPS. It's in the private public preview today, and we plan to have this GA sometime in August 2023. And finally, Microsoft Defender for Cloud and long-term backups for Azure MySQL Flexible Server. Both will be in private preview in this quarter. That's all, Sharia.
Perfect. Thanks, Avnish. Calling out again, folks, if you want to try out the features in private preview, do write to us at Ask Azure DB for MySQL at service.microsoft.com. That is the universal cross-region read replica is in private preview, and you can just write to us on this email ID and we'll get you enrolled. Team, that's all we had for today. But as we close out, I'll leave you with three things. First is the documentation and resources. So you can, to learn more about the service, you can use any of these resources, or feel free to reach out to us on our email ID. Second, stay tuned for more updates and announcements by following us on social media, by subscribing us to on our YouTube channel. Our handle on both YouTube as well as Twitter is at Azure DB MySQL. And finally, if you want to feature in our upcoming webinars or collaborate with us on any collateral, do fill out this form and let us know. You can use the same form for submitting any feedback or suggestions on what we should be covering in the upcoming webinars as well. But that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode. See you all in our next session next month on 9th of August at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you.
Thank you all.